7146. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion second on the amendment? We have a motion and a second on the amendment. Again, the amendment does rewrite the bill. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on drafting code 007146 onto House Bill 1199. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes do have it. We're back on the bill as amended. Chairman Kumar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1199 is a civic lesson translated into a bill and brought to me by local students, and subsequently we received support from the TSBA, Tennessee School Board Association. It asks each LEA to develop a policy so that a non-voting member, high school student, is appointed to attend public meetings of the board. It exempts those LEAs who are already operating advisory groups to give feedback to the school board.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Kumar. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 1199. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Are you ready to vote? Madam Clerk, please open the board. All those in favor of House Bill 1199, moving on to calendar and rules, please vote aye. All those opposed, no. Has everyone voted? Would anyone like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 23 ayes, 2 noes, 1 present not voting.
The ayes do have it. House Bill 1199 moves on to calendar and rules. That brings us to item number 7 on our calendars, House Bill 1200 by Chairman Kumar. We have a motion and a second. There is an amendment that has been filed, drafting code 006507. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion second on the amendment? We have a motion and a second on the amendment. The amendment does rewrite the bill, so we will put this amendment on. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on the amendment, drafting code 006507 on to House Bill 1200. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes do have it. We're back on the bill as amended. Chairman Kumar, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, this is the persistent domestic violence offender registry. About 3 years ago, there was a major tragedy in our community. A young lady by the name of Savannah, after whom this bill is named, was working at the sheriff's office on the staff and was well-liked and progressed to become a patrol deputy. She started seeing a man, and after a few meetings, realized that that was not the right thing. He has some tendencies that she did not think were good. She talked to her mother about it, and ultimately, because he was still coming around, she thought she should get a restraining order. Just 4 days later, before she had a chance to do that, the man came and parked his truck in the driveway, did not get out, did not leave. As it got to be getting a little darker, Savannah got concerned. So she called the sheriff's office. Of course, she worked there and they knew her. But by the time sheriff's deputies got to her house, he had shot Savannah 9 times, killed her dog, and set the house on fire. For a small town where even law enforcement know each other, this was very shocking. Mothers, you can imagine, mother's grief, and she spent time getting over it as much as 2 years. And 2 years later, she called me. I knew her because she was a nurse at the hospital, and we worked for many years together. So we met. I met with her, and my wife was with me, and the 2 mothers talked, and I basically listened. And her feeling was that as Savannah was connected to law enforcement, if there had been a registry, she would have checked it, and a tragedy like this would have been avoided. Then we worked with the DA's office and committee members and developed a domestic violence registry that a person who's convicted of domestic violence and has 1 prior offense of conviction will go on the registry for 5 years, and then on subsequent offenses that will increase with time. The information of the offender is limited. Of course, their photograph is there. the offense is there, the county that the problem happened, as well as the date of the offense are listed. Their personal ID or their current address is not listed. And of course, the victim's information is greatly protected. We hope that tragedies such as this can be avoided. We did get this law passed last year, but it was not funded. This year, we are grateful that this is funded and is in the budget. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Kumar, and thank you for, number one, for this bill and certainly for the description. Members, any discussion? Again, we're on House Bill 1200. Representative Shaw, you're recognized.
Thank you for the bill. I just want to, now, are you creating just a registry, or is there going to be some kind of grant involved in this as well? I missed that.
Chairman Kumar.
We are just creating a registry to be operated by the TBI. It will need staffing and will be an ongoing expense of about $500,000 a year. And after the parents and we met with the governor, he has been kind to fund it, and it is in the budget.
Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the legislation. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Further discussion on House Bill 1200. Hearing none and seeing none, are you ready to vote? Madam Clerk, please open the board. All those in favor of House Bill 1200, moving on to calendar and rules, please vote aye. All those opposed, no. Has everyone voted? Would anyone like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 27 ayes, 0 noes.
The ayes do have it. House Bill 1200 moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That brings us to item number 8 on our calendar. It's going to be House Bill 124 by Chairman Todd. I was going to say that does not look like Chairman Todd, but
thought you had an improvement there.
all right, we have a motion to second on House Bill 124. Chairman Todd, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What this bill does, this is an administration bill for Department of Environment and Conservation. This updates a decades-old fee cap, an important step in modernizing the fee structure for the non-Title V air permitting program. It also removes the coal combustion residual landfill permit program from the EFP's existing structure and will authorize cost recovery for activities related to coal combustion recovery disposal units, and will modify the prohibition of the disposal of coal ash in an unlined facility to allow TDEC to permit and regulate these unlined CCR disposal units. And the last thing it does, it establishes a statutory environmental protection fund ratio for the Division of Mineral and Geologic Resources to allow for the direct collection of fees, civil penalties, and damages. The legislation does not raise fees or fee caps on that particular item. It simply streamlines the way funds flow to the Division of Mineral and Geologic Resources, ensuring the appropriate collection of fees to improve the performance of the division's functions. For that, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Chairman Todd. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 124. Any discussion? Question's been called. Objection to calling the question. Hearing none and seeing none, are you ready to vote? Madam Clerk, please open the board. All those in favor of House Bill 124, moving on to calendar and rules, please vote aye. All those opposed, no. Has everyone voted? Would anyone like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 25 ayes, 0 noes, 1 present not voting.
The ayes have it. House Bill 124 moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Committee.
Thank you, Chairman. That brings us to item number 9. And waiting patiently, item number 9 is House Bill 133 by Representative Raper. You have a motion to second, sir, and I know you have an amendment, drafting code 007320, which rewrites the bill. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion to second on the amendment. We have a motion to second on the amendment. Let's go ahead and get this on, get the bill in the proper posture. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on drafting code 007320 on to House Bill 133. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're back when the bill is amended. And Representative Raper, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill expands a pilot program the state has had for several years now and allows for a church campus in my district to build residential living for adults with intellectual and development disabilities. Real Life Village is a nonprofit organization in Bradley County that will spearhead the program off of Westmore Church of God campus, along with church members and others in the community that are willing to volunteer and help children with special needs. The supervised residential living Real Life Village will facilitate the expansion of the program, which will provide care, support, and programming necessary for these adults to survive and thrive. Upon finishing construction, the residential facilities will also include a community center for activities and outreach program. One other point is this has a positive physical impact on the state, which will be a recurring amount of $10,600. And the last thing I will say is this: the bill, if passed, could be a great difference maker immediately for Cleveland and in the near future for all of Tennessee.
All right, thank you,
I renew my
Representative.
motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Raper, for this description. Members, any discussion? Representative Gant, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say how good it is to see Representative Raper standing here before us today. And
Very well said. Thank you for that.
May I make a comment?
Yeah, Representative Raper.
To God be the glory.
There we go. All right, further discussion on the bill, House Bill 133. Hearing none and seeing none, we're now, Madam Clerk, open the board. We're now voting on House Bill 133, moving on to calendar and rules. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, no. Has everyone voted? Would anyone like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 25 ayes, 0 noes.
The ayes do have it. House Bill 133 moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
and committee.
Representative. Members, that brings us to item number 10. Item number 10 is going to be House Bill 1134 by Chairman Boyd. You have a motion and a second. There he is. Chairman, you do have an amendment drafting code 006907, which rewrites the bill. Is that correct?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, drafted code 6907.
Okay, we have a motion and second on the amendment. It does rewrite. So is there any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, seeing none. We're now voting on Amendment 006907 on the House Bill 1134. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes do have it. We're back on the bill as amended. Chairman Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Committee, House Bill 1134 is a wonderful piece of legislation that will help our homeless veteran community here in Tennessee. This bill, as amended, it is permissive, will allow municipalities the option to provide property tax relief to properties controlled by nonprofit organizations in property use solely to provide permanent affordable housing to low-income households, of which at least 30% of the units are dedicated to provide permanent, quality affordable housing for veterans experiencing homelessness. Mr. Chairman, I'll take any questions.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Boyd. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 1134. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing none, are we ready to vote? Madam Clerk, please open the board. All those in favor of House Bill 1134 moving on to calendar and rules, please vote aye. All those opposed, no. Has everyone voted? Would anyone like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 27 ayes, 0 noes.
The ayes do have it. House Bill 1134 moves on to calendar and rules. Brings us to item number 11. Item number 11 on our calendar is going to be House Bill 547 by Assistant Leader Cochran. You have a motion and a second. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 547 institutes a fee that mirrors what public defenders currently collect. This is a $12.50 charge that would go to district attorneys. They currently receive this funding from a fee that's attached to cases regarding bad checks. Fewer and fewer people are writing bad checks, so this just gives locals the opportunity to replace a fee if they so choose to do so. This is permissive.
All right. Thank you, Leader Cochran. Members, you've heard the description. Any discussion? Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, other committees, we've had this discussion, but I know Leader Cochran's a little younger than some of us, but do you still have a checkbook, or have you ever actually written a check?
Leader Cochran.
Every now and then. Yeah, not many checks.
Leader Lambert.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure, there's still a few of us that still write paper checks, and I think Representative Shaw and Representative Hicks and I just want to make sure that the member knows what a check is before we start going on this road. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Leader Lambert. Representative Shaw.
How about cash apps?
Out of order. All right. Any further discussion on House Bill 547? Hearing none, seeing none. Are we ready to vote? Madam Clerk, please open the board. All those in favor of House Bill 547 moving on to calendar and rules, please vote aye. All those opposed, no. Has everyone voted? Would anyone like to change your vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 28 ayes, 0 noes.
The ayes do have it. House Bill 547 moves on to calendar and rules. That brings us to item number 12. Item number 12 on our calendars, House Bill 1270 by Leader Cochran. We have a motion and a second. Sir, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1270 is a protection against coerced speech for students and state employees.
All right. Thank you for the description. Any discussion, members, on House Bill 1270? Representative Freeman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you describe a little bit more about what this bill is doing?
Leader Cochran.
Sure. And so it's basically just based on the premise that no state employee or no student can be coerced into affirming something that is against their closely held religious or moral convictions.
Representative Freeman.
Can you give me an example of what that would be?
Leader Cochran.
Sure. A specific example would be if a teacher was a male one week and the next week that teacher decided that they were going to identify as a female, they could not force their students to acknowledge that.
Representative Freeman.
And how would the students know?
Leader Cochran.
I would imagine they would notice the difference from one week to the next.
Representative Freeman.
So let's say they didn't notice the difference. How would they know?
Leader Cochran.
So again, I suppose in that instance, it wouldn't be an issue. But if a student if it's a situation where they know that how a person is demanding to be referred to does not match their biological sex, then they just cannot be coerced into acknowledging that. It doesn't say that they can't acknowledge it. It just says that as the state of Tennessee, we cannot coerce anyone into saying something.
Representative Freeman.
Thank you. One last question. It also says here that you can't use a nickname or anything other than a derivative. I went to school with a guy whose name was Scooter. No derivative of his name. Is that going to be allowed now? Because it appears you can't do it per your bill.
Leader Cochran.
No, you can continue to refer to Scooter by that nickname. You just can't be forced to refer to him as Scooter.
Representative Freeman.
So again, you can have someone who has a name, everybody knows them by that name, and you don't have to call them their name?
Leader Cochran.
Under the First Amendment, you don't have to call anyone anything. No, you cannot be coerced into saying anything.
Yeah, there you go. So we get to pick and choose who gets to recognize their First Amendment rights then? That's great. Good, thanks.
I think this recognizes everyone's First Amendment rights. Thank you.
Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Move previous question.
Question's been called. Objection called on the question. Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 1270, moving on to calendar and rules. Madam Clerk, please open the board. All those in favor of House Bill 1270, moving on to calendar and rules, please vote aye. All those opposed, no. Has everyone voted? Would anyone like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 20 ayes, 6 noes.
The ayes have it. House Bill 1270 moves on to calendar and rules. All right, that brings us to item number 13 on our calendar. Item number 13 is going to be House Bill 910 by Representative Garrett. We have a motion and a second, and there is an amendment that has been filed by Representative Miller. Representative Miller, I have 6093. Is that correct? Motion. I do not see Representative Miller to move this amendment. Representative Miller. All right, then we were moving back to the bill. So we are back on the bill. We have a motion and a second. And you're recognized, Representative Garrett, for a description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 910 as amended will transfer the powers and the abilities of the Human Rights Commission to the Attorney General and create a new division called the Division of the Civil Rights Enforcement. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to take any questions.
All right, members, we do have someone who would like to testify on this. The first thing we're going to do, are there any initial questions for the sponsor, for Representative Garrett? If you would, please turn around and let me know. Any initial questions? Okay. All right, then with that said, without objection, we are going to go out of session. Without objection, we're out of session. I'm going to ask Mr. Franklin if he would please come up. Mr. Franklin? I do not see Mr. Franklin. So without objection, we're going to go back into session. We're back in session, and Representative Garrett, we're going to open it up for questions, and first is Representative Love. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the sponsor, if there are instances where someone may have an issue with how the state itself is carrying out a program, the Human Rights Commission normally would be able to receive those complaints and concerns. If they're up under the Attorney General's office, how would that work?
Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Love, you've got to tell me what type of complaint. That's a very general question that you're asking me to respond to, and I have absolutely no idea what you mean by a type of complaint that might come before the Human Rights Commission that will be any different. I can tell you that whatever complaints can come from the Human Rights Commission will be no different than what complaints can come from the Attorney General's office.
Representative Love.
Thank you. Let's say someone has a complaint against the Attorney General's office, that they felt they were treated unfairly by the Attorney General, or an instance where maybe housing with state agency. How do they then have the state Attorney General's office conduct that particular investigation? I'm concerned about procedure at this point.
Representative Garrett.
Thank you for that question. It's a good question. Right now, the division wouldn't be the one investigating a complaint like that. There's several other different divisions. Like the Consumer Protection Division of the AG's office would probably handle a complaint that could potentially be a conflict for that division to investigate itself. That happens. That's already happening under the Attorney General's office, since they cover so many different divisions, but they still are the investigatory side of the state, and so they would just be handled by a different division. And in fact, there's a Court of Appeals case that has been adjudicated for that purpose that says that's the appropriate way to handle a particular complaint like you're bringing up.
Representative Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are there particular reasons why we would want to move the Human Rights Commission up under the Attorney General's office?
Representative Garrett.
Are you asking the reason, my reasons for bringing the piece of legislation? Is that, I want to make sure I just understood your question.
Representative Love.
Yes, and are there any particular reasons why, in addition to why you're bringing, did someone ask you to bring this bill, or you yourself saw the need for this?
Representative Garrett.
No, I'm bringing this piece of legislation. I've not been asked to do that. And the reasons are, I believe that we need to eradicate discrimination cases in this state. We need to make sure that those that feel that they have been discriminated against will be fully investigated, that they will take those complaints seriously, that they will be eradicated, and if they ever would receive any sort of acknowledgement that the Attorney General of this state is investigating them, my hope, once they see that, once they realize how serious the state, along with the good wisdom of this General Assembly, sees how serious we take these complaints against folks, that they may deter that type of behavior in the future, and we can eradicate discrimination in this state. So those are my reasons, is to make sure that these are streamlined, that they're heard, that they're investigated by lawyers, and that we can get to a result that is fair and equal under the circumstances, to make sure what type of discrimination cases that we have, so we can eradicate those. That's the reasons why I'm bringing this piece of legislation, or some of the reasons.
Representative Love.
All right. Thank you, Sponsor. Thank you, Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Representative Crawford. Move previous question. Question's been called. Objection called on the question. I see 3 hands. We're going to vote on previous question. All those in favor of previous question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes do have it. Previous question has been called. Madam Clerk, please open the board. All those in favor of House Bill 910 moving on to calendar and rules, please vote aye. All those in favor of House Bill 910 moving on to calendar and rules, please vote aye. All those opposed, no. Has everyone voted? Would anyone like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 21 ayes, 6 noes.
The ayes do have it. House Bill 910 moves on to calendar and rules. Chairman Vaughn, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, earlier when the assessor for Hardeman County was recognized, I missed out on an opportunity to recognize my cousin. And so if Lily Pulse would mind standing up, if she traveled up here today with her dad, then we need to welcome her to the room as well. Why in the world would you come without a chance to be embarrassed? Thanks for making her feel welcome.
All right, thank you. Members, we are on item number 14, House Bill 968. We have a motion, and Chairman Hawk, this is Chairman Hawk's bill, House Bill 968. We have a motion and a second. There are multiple amendments that have been filed on this bill, and so the amendment labeled as A2 Drafting Code 005630 by Chairman Hawk has already been adopted by this committee. So we will move on to A3 Drafting Code 007018 by Representative Freeman. Do we have a motion and a second? Motion. We have a motion and a second. Sir, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to withdraw this, as I understand it's being picked up in an amendment that we will hear later.
All right. Thank you very much. Without objection, the amendment has been withdrawn. That brings us to the next amendment, Amendment A4, and this is by Leader Cochran, and the drafting code is 007156. We have a motion and a second. Leader Cochran, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Similar situation. Mine will be encompassed in a future amendment. I'll withdraw.
All right. Without objection, so moved. That brings us to the next amendment, Amendment A5, drafting code, and this is by Chairman Hawk, drafting code 007109. Chairman Hawk, do we have a motion and a second? We have a motion and a second, sir. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Not to be repetitive, but I believe this language in this amendment will be taken up by a later amendment as well. Move to withdraw.
All right. Any objections to withdrawal request? Seeing none, amendment withdrawn. That brings us to Amendment A6, drafting code 7127 by Representative Freeman. Do we have a motion and second? We have a motion and second. You're recognized.
Yeah, I'm going to withdraw this one as well.
All right. Any objection? So moved. That brings us to A7, drafting code by Leader Cochran 7237. We have a motion and second. You have a motion and second. Leader Cochran, you're recognized.
Same situation. I withdraw, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any objection to the request? If so moved, withdrawn. That brings us to Amendment A8, drafting code 7283 by Deputy Speaker Zachary. Motion. We have a motion and a second. Deputy Speaker Zachary, recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to withdraw.
Any objection to the request? Hearing none, amendment withdrawn. That brings us to A9, Amendment A9 by Chairman Hawk, drafting code 7325. Chairman Hawk, we have a motion to second on the amendment. We have a motion to second on the amendment. Chairman Hawk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to withdraw.
Request to withdraw Amendment 7325. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. That brings us to Amendment A10, drafting code 7503 by Deputy Speaker Zachary. We have a motion second. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this gets us through halfway through my amendments, but I'll move to withdraw this one.
All right, you've heard the request. Any objection? So moved. All right, so we're up in. Okay. All right, now we have Amendment A11 by Deputy Speaker Zachary, and that is 007568. We have a motion second. Motion. We have a motion second. Deputy Speaker Zachary, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 7568. Mr. Chairman, we're going to move to withdraw that one as well.
All right, any objection? So moved. That brings us to A12, Amendment 7573 by Deputy Speaker Zachary. You're recognized. We have a motion second. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is the one we'd like to move forward on.
All right. We do have a motion second. Would you like to describe the amendment, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. And members, if you would just be patient with me, as this amendment 7573 closely reflects the amendment that was filed last week, 7283. And so we've just made a couple of tweaks after the weekend and after multiple parties reviewed the language. We got it filed right before the filing deadline, and so it got reviewed over the weekend, and there's a couple of what would be considered technical changes. Let me first say thank you to Chairman Hawk for his work on the bill. Thank you to Leader Cochran. This one has been a true collaboration. There are many people involved that have. That is probably somebody that was also included in the vape negotiations. There has been many conversations over the weekend by both sides. I know for me personally, my biggest concern was not about the product itself. To be clear, I'm not a fan of the product, but I'm a fan of commerce. And so as we originally started out this bill.
Speaker Zachary, let me stop you just for a second, because I want to make sure, the one thing, I know we're moving a little fast, but I want to make sure we get it right more than anything. This was an untimely filed amendment. So is there any objection to hearing an untimely filed amendment? Seeing none, we're back on the bill. And do we have a motion a second on, again, we have a motion a second, again, to make sure everyone is clear. We are on Amendment 7573. 7573. Sorry about that, but wanted to make sure we did get the bill in the proper posture. And with that, Speaker Zachary, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it'll speed up the process. Thank you to all that were involved. This has been a true collaboration to ensure we protect commerce. Not about the product, about protecting commerce. But we have done some good work on this, and let me just quickly go through this amendment. Members, if you don't have this amendment, you can follow along with drafting code 7283, which was the one that was filed last week. And again, we just made a couple of tweaks. A couple of things this bill does, probably most importantly, and actually Representative Freeman had an amendment on this one. It protects those that are under 21. It is very specific in how it limits the marketing and targeting of those under 21. It ensures that if anyone is under 21 is sold a product, there is a significant penalty associated with that. We're not going to tolerate that in the state. And I think, as the sheriff talked about last week, we're going to address those issues. And I thank all the parties who were involved to help us get to this point. Another significant concern I know of Chairman Hawks was to ensure that we banned those products from China. There were being, I think, I'm going to butcher these numbers, so nobody send me an email about the numbers being wrong. There was a report last week that Florida sold roughly 350 million products that were illegally sold. 90% of those products are from China, and they're banned in China. And so one of the intents of this bill is to ensure that we are prohibiting those products banned in China, and also prohibiting those products, vapes, whatever the word is, from being mixed in back rooms. No one has any idea what's in those products, and then those are being sold to consumers. So this bill addresses that. This bill addresses that by, if you look on page 2, Section 7, Section 7.4 on page 2, it ensures that all products, consumable materials are processed at an FDA facility, or if it is overseas, it's an FDA registered facility. So we're ensuring that anything that comes to these vape stores or is sold to consumers is protected by FDA or monitored by the FDA. We put revenue enforcement in here. We've also added enforcement of ABC. ABC is going to be able to monitor roughly 2,500 of the 5,000 locations to ensure that this is being followed. There's a good revenue component in here that has stayed the same. We've included trigger language where if the FDA, as they expand their approved list, that would automatically expand with the state. We've given a 2-year implementation, so we've got business owners that have built their model on what's here. And again, while we are limiting some of these products, we're limiting the illegal products and the products that are mixed in a back room where people don't know what's in them. We do provide a 2-year implementation on this to give everybody plenty of runway time. And then finally, Mr. Chairman, the tax revenue in this will begin immediately. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to answer any questions on Amendment Drafting Code 7573.
All right, members, you've heard the description. Again, we're on the amendment, 007573. Any discussion? Representative Freeman.
Thank you, Chairman. And to the sponsor, one of my amendments also limited the distance from K-12 institutions. Is that in this bill?
Speaker Zachary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. Representative Freeman, it is page 4.
I'm good.
Section 8. Let's see, 8(1)(b) on page 4. Yes, sir. 1,000 feet.
Thank you for protecting kids.
Yes, sir.
All right, again, we're on the amendment. Further discussion. Leader Camper, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Speaker, we received testimony before from people concerned about the open system. Does this include, are they included in this in this amendment to allow them to still function?
Leader Zachary.
You said everybody met over the weekend. I was curious.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, ma'am, Leader Camper, if you look on page 2, Section 7, Section 7.4, page 2, that is, if you look at number 3.
7.4.
Yes, ma'am. On page 2, Section 7.4, if you look on 3, we added the word or, which is significant, and it says or consumer material vapor products is processed or blended in an FDA facility or a monitored FDA facility, which is overseas, then that is what's covered there. So yeah, open system, whatever this is, as long as it's from an FDA facility or an FDA approved facility, they're good to go.
Okay.
Leader Camper.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And with respect to when we started this legislation, there was conversation around creating a registry. Is that still in here, or how do we deal with this potential registry that was to be created?
Speaker Zachary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, ma'am, that's still included.
Okay. All right. And,
Leader Camper.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And finally got the fiscal note. I was trying to follow along with the fiscal note. In the fiscal note, there's a lot of money being generated as a result of some of the language. And so we're going to create positions within the ABC to enforce this legislation should it pass. Is that correct?
Speaker Zachary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, ma'am, that's correct. So $15 million to the general fund, $2.1 million to ABC for enforcement. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. And we took the ag out of it completely. It's all in the ABC. We're giving them the money, the staff to do it.
Speaker Zachary.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Leader
you.
Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further discussion. Question's been called. Any objection? Call on the question. If not, all those in favor of Amendment 007573 going on to House Bill 968 signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes do have it. We're back on the bill as amended. Chairman Hawk, you are recognized, sir, on House Bill 968.
Thank you, Chairman. Seems a little anticlimactic now. I want to thank Deputy Speaker Zachary and Leader Cochran and all those folks who have been working throughout the process over the last several weeks. As you know, we've had a lot of individuals who are never going to be 100% happy with the piece of legislation, but I believe we're a place to where we can live with it. Our school systems, our school resource officers, our juvenile court judges, law enforcement, healthcare professionals, district attorneys are all looking for ways to address the youth vaping issue that has been a scourge to our society. This is a way to do that. I'll reiterate what I've said several times in other committees, that nothing in this bill will make any vape product that is currently legal illegal. We're only talking about products that are currently legal under the FDA standards. Certainly stand, if I don't have any answers to any questions, I'm going to phone a friend and Speaker Zachary, but stand for any questions, Chairman and members.
All right, thank you, Chairman Hawk. And now that we have the bill in the proper posture, let's begin this way. We do have someone here on the list to give testimony, but we will begin with any questions to the sponsor. Any questions to Chairman Hawk? Representative Freeman, you're recognized.
Thank you. Move previous question.
All right, question's been called. Objection to call on the question. Hearing none and seeing none, is everyone ready to vote? Madam Clerk, please open the board. All those in favor of House Bill 968 moving on to calendar and rules, please vote aye. All those opposed, no. Has everyone voted? Would anyone like to change your vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 25 ayes, 1 no, and 1 present not voting.
The ayes do have it. House Bill 968 moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Chairman and members.
Thank you. And let me say, before we move on to item 15, I do want to thank Chairman Hawk, Speaker Zachary, Leader Cochran, I know there's been several folks that have, and of course the industry as well, for working. I know no one's probably real giddy and real happy about this bill, and probably everyone walks away just a little bit upset, and that's probably a good spot to be in, to be honest with you. So moving on to item number 15 on our calendar is going to be House Bill 194 by Chairman Vaughn. We have a motion and a second. Sir, you're recognized for a description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got an amendment traveling with this bill. 6837 is the drafting code.
That is correct. You are in the proper posture and ready to move forward.
First, let me say hello, friends. This bill, a tradition unlike any other. By the way, yes, I did go to the Masters this weekend. So anyway, I just had to get in my humble brag. This is our annual NIL update that we consider each year. I want to remind people, especially considering the events of this weekend, NIL is the law of the land, which was determined through case law, and what we do here in the state of Tennessee is we provide guardrails that protect both the athlete as well as the institution. This year's updates, we believe, will give us a stronger hand in the management of the collectives. It also puts the institutions in the ability to have the ability to manage more of this process, something that we think probably this weekend could have been used with regards to events up on the Hill. This version will keep us competitive with states who have done updates recently, which include Georgia, Texas, Virginia, Missouri, Oklahoma, Alabama, and Arkansas. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer any questions with regards to this year's version.
Thank you, Chairman Vaughn. Members, you've heard the description. Any discussion? Representative Love, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Chairman Vaughn, if you could walk a little bit more through what this particular bill does. I have a higher education institution in my district, and I want to make sure that the athletes there are going to be okay with what we're proposing today.
Chairman Vaughn.
Well, what this bill does quite a bit, Representative. First, let me say the first thing we've done is we made sure that these recent amendments were consistent with the positions that our Attorney General has taken with regards to antitrust positions with the NCAA. It protects our athletes from NCAA interpretations that, based upon the actions that whenever our institutions are compliant with state law, that the NCAA may not agree with. And so this still maintains the ability for us to regulate our institutions with our laws. This has no impact, as many would prefer, but this does not have any impact on the transfer portal. This keeps us competitive with other states with regards to things. And what we've, with this type of transaction between athletes and institutions. But what we are trying to do, you know, originally we were thinking, and being one of the, with this early on, we were thinking that we were going to have people that give our athletes the ability to coach at camps and sign autographs, or either maybe some of the some of the really major ones might be getting Nike shoe deals or something else. This takes all of that into consideration. But what as an original sponsor of this, I never knew of something called collectives. We had not. And so the collectives came along, and it has created mayhem in the marketplace. Through recent court cases, institutions will now be able to provide compensation directly to athletes, and I think that's a good thing, because what it'll do is this, I believe it'll result in the marketplace being somewhat more regulated, but will also be more orderly, and I think that's a good thing. Those are just some of the things I have about 5 pages of talking points I'd be happy to share with you, but that's the gist of it.
Representative Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and sponsor, thank you for that explanation.
Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the first thing I want to address is, you said original sponsor?
Chairman Vaughn.
Well, I did say a tradition unlike any others. We do have this same tete-a-tete. Let me say the original sponsor who had the ability to get this bill passed.
Oh, well, hey. No.
Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No offense taken. The original sponsor killed mine, ran his, passed it. I'm okay. Look. I do have some questions, Mrs. Chair, and to the sponsor. Mr. Sponsor, you mentioned that it allows the institutions the ability to manage this more. What did you mean by that?
Chairman Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Recently, this past year, there was a court case called the House case, and that allowed provided this standard for revenue sharing with athletes, and that revenue sharing has to come through the university. And so what's going to happen is that revenue will be, I think it comes into this next year, but institutions will be revenue sharing with their players, and that this is a part of that. And the next step beyond that, and we're just setting guardrails up as we see this develop, is we are anticipating that institutions will be allowed to compensate their athletes, and we're putting the structure in place for that to happen with this legislation.
Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so as we adopt this newer version of my bill, does this limit athletes' compensation in any manner?
Chairman Vaughn.
No, sir.
Excellent. And Mr. Chair, I just have, thank you, sir. Also, and I think you were alluding to this, but can you the proposed settlement that's coming out of San Francisco with the federal judge, it hadn't been settled yet, I don't think. It hadn't been. They hadn't expressed that settlement, if I'm not mistaken. But how does this align with the proposed settlement that's coming from the federal judge in San Francisco?
Chairman Vaughn.
Well, Representative, what we're seeing is that the longer that proposed settlement is out on the table, that more and more institutions are willing to walk away from it because they're not. At first, it was like, okay, this is going to be the deal. But as as institutions start looking at this and individualizing the information that they're getting and deciding whether or not that's best for their program or not, what this latest version will do will be protecting our institutions regardless of the position taken with the House settlement.
Last question, Mr. Chair.
Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, sir. Is there, I was looking, but I didn't see the bill jacking clause in there anywhere. Is that in there? No?
Thank you. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Speaker Zachary, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Vaughn, thank you for bringing the legislation. I think it's important that we point out how Tennessee has led on this issue. From the beginning, whether it's the state of Tennessee or the University of Tennessee, we have led. Chairman Vaughn has been the tip of the spear of that, so I appreciate his leadership. And after the events of this past week involving Nico and the University of Tennessee, I want to say on the record, thank you to Coach Heupel and Danny White for their stand. Thank you to Dondi and Randy Boyd for their leadership at the university. I think the NCAA could look at the University of Tennessee and the state of Tennessee and take note of the leadership at the university in our state. And if they had anything close to that kind of leadership, we wouldn't be in this position. It's important to remember that we're treating symptoms right here because we're dealing with a core issue of failed leadership at the NCAA that has put our universities in an untenable position and is completely unfair to the student athlete. And shame on the NCAA for their lack of leadership, and I'll stop there before I say something I shouldn't, because, Mr. Chairman, it is unfortunate that, again, we're all in this position because of the failed leadership of the NCAA. So well done to the University of Tennessee and Coach Heupel specifically saying no player is bigger than the program. Again, thank you to Dondi and Danny White and Randy Boyd for their leadership. Thank you, Chairman Vaughn, for your leadership. Every time we find ourselves in a different position, you take the lead and step up to ensure that Tennessee is leading the way. As you said, this bill puts guardrails that strengthens not only the position of the institution in the state, but also better protects the student athlete, again, which I think sometimes when we throw around this kind of money, that gets lost in this. So thank you, Chairman Vaughn. Thank you, Chairman Hickson.
Thank you, Chairman Vaughn.
I appreciate that, Deputy Speaker. For this to ever truly be solved, it's going to take congressional action because there's such a broad range of institutions, and that's one thing that I would encourage all of our members as we continue conversations with our federal delegation to keep this as an item that we believe that they need to keep on the front burner and keep pressing for. I believe that would solve a lot of issues within this sphere and hopefully set up a system by which college athletics would be more traditional in nature.
Thank you, Leader Lambert.
Move previous question.
Question's been called. Objection called on the question. Hearing none and seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the board. All those in favor of House Bill 194 moving on to calendar and rules, please vote aye. All those opposed, no. Has everyone voted? Would anyone like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 27 ayes, 0 noes.
The ayes have it. House Bill 194 moves on to calendar and rules. All right, that brings us to item number 16, and I've got a request here to roll this 1 week without objection. Rolled 1 week. And that completes our calendar for today. Do we have any further business coming before the committee? Seeing none. Members, hold on 1 second. Chairman Williams, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Vaughn. I just wondered if your office could send Representative Parkinson a sign-on sheet.
All right. Do we have any further business coming before the committee? I see none. Members, hold on. Hold on, members. No. Hold on 1 second, members. Let's make sure we get everything in proper order. You will want to probably sit back down. Members, without objection, we're going to reconsider our actions on item number 16, House Bill 1344 by Chairman Williams. We rolled that 1 week, but without objection, we're going to reconsider. Without objection, so moved. Members, we will actually need to take item number 16, House Bill 1344, and roll it to the next available calendar. So without objection, so moved. And also, let me say this. We are going to stand in recess until tomorrow, immediately following Finance, Ways, and Means Sub. Without objection, we stand adjourned.
Oh, no, stand in
Nope.
recess.
Nope.
I ain't standing until he says it's cool.
Members, let me back up. We're going to adjourn. We're not going to adjourn. We're going to stand in recess. I'll get that right in a second. We are standing in recess. Now we're going to get out of here.